Buying tickets to sports and concerts can be complicated and confusing, but there is a better way to buy, and that's with SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the smartest, easiest way to get tickets at every type of live event. Whether you're searching for a last-minute deal, planning a night out, or need to find the perfect gift, SeatGeek helps you find the best seats at the best prices, fully guaranteed. There's nothing quite like seeing your favorite team or musician in person, and SeatGeek will get you closer to the action for a great value. I have the SeatGeek app on my phone. It's by far the easiest way I found to shop for tickets. I could be anywhere, and with just a few taps, I can instantly find seats. SeatGeek is designed to make your ticket buying experience easier than ever and to get you the most bang for your buck. SeatGeek grades every ticket based on value to help you immediately identify the best seats that fit your budget. Plus, every purchase fully guaranteed, so you can shop for tickets on SeatGeek with confidence. Best of all, my listeners get $20 off their first SeatGeek purchase. Just download the SeatGeek app and enter the promo code WINGO today. That's promo code WINGO, $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase.
Sport Clips Haircuts Holiday Halftime Giveaway has cash for you this holiday season. Sport Clips is giving away $500 every day until December 15th. Visit sportclips.com/holiday to enter for your chance to win. No purchase necessary. Ends 12/15. Must be 18 or older to enter. Subject to official rules at sportclips.com/holiday. Void where prohibited.
This is the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast.
Carson Wentz has indeed torn his left ACL and is done for the year. Time for Straight Talk Wireless about that now, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. And speaking of Straight Talk, I did like the way, guys, that Doug sort of addressed this with the media, because to me, someone asked him, I don't know who it was, can you guys overcome this? And his response was, absolutely, we can overcome this. We've overcome the loss of a All-Pro, Hall of Fame left tackle, yeah, special teamers, running backs.
Middle
absolutely,
linebacker.
We're going to do this. And to me, he wasn't speaking to the media there. He was giving the straight talk to his team by what he was telling the media.
Well, yeah, I think this team is very talented in a depth way to where, as we talked about, you can spread the ball around. Now, you know, your left tackle, your middle linebacker, your special teamer, or running back, it's not your quarterback. It's not a quarterback who was on an MVP pace. It's not a quarterback who had thrown, with a handful of games ago, 33 touchdown passes. So it's just as it is with all quarterbacks, it's always different. But as I said yesterday, I feel somewhat confident that Nick Foles can keep this. Now, we sit there and say with Wentz, they were a favorite to get to the Super Bowl. Can we still say they're a favorite to get to the Super Bowl? I'll say this. Obviously, the work got a lot harder because I think there's a lot of really good teams in the NFC. I think it's not like the AFC where we're talking New England, Pittsburgh, and maybe some shocker team. You know, you're talking, I think, at least 5 deep in the NFC, and we don't even know if Aaron Rodgers is coming back yet or not. So, but I have faith that Foles can spread the ball around, that they have enough there. My biggest worry is taking hits and getting sacked, because Wentz could escape all that, and Nick Foles isn't one that can do that as well.
Yeah, you wonder how much for an injured Eagles offensive line, especially at that left tackle spot, Carson Wentz covered up for some of the warts that might pop up there. We've seen protection be a little bit of an issue down the stretch at times, and you wonder how much worse that gets. To Trey's point about talking to the team, some of that I think was Doug talking to himself too, saying, "No, I'm looking into the mirror. I'm good enough. I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me." Yeah. But you look at it. I think the point there, you mentioned a lot of the other good teams, some of whom have been dealing with, I think, similar quarterback issues. Now, I don't want to lump Jared Goff into that necessarily, but he's not a guy that we've lumped into the MVP conversation, right, despite the success he had. We understand Sean McVay and that team have played a lot into it. We understand Case Keenum in the Minnesota offense. There's been a lot of that. I know you guys love wins above replacement. For the most part in his career, Case Keenum's been a replacement level quarterback.
He's been the mythical creature?
He's been the missing link in that equation that you guys have been looking for, that I know you love so much. But those teams have been able to work over the course of a season around finding a way to work that offense around what that guy's capable of. My only concern is the Eagles have to do that in 3 weeks.
Right. They do. Look, there's a couple of ancillary things about this, too, that get into it. As good as Wentz has been, again, 33 touchdown passes, he set a single-season record with 3 games to play, and for most of the season he's led the league in touchdown passes. What's really got that offense going has been the running game. They've had I think they were at one point they were averaging 147 yards per game, second in the league to Jacksonville. I think it's still close to that, and that has allowed everything to go forward. So if you want to look at it as half full as you possibly can, look, we may not get the miracle plays. We're not going to get the chicken salad out of chicken you-know-what plays that we've got from Carson Wentz. But if the running game is working for Philadelphia and they have 4 viable backs and a really good offensive line, then that will open up things for Nick Foles. That's the glass half full scenario.
Yeah, I agree. In Philadelphia, they're still second, and they're at $1.43 a game. Yeah. So they're still right there. But what we're saying, though, in a nutshell, is the Philadelphia Eagles were a favorite to make it to the Super Bowl, being led by an MVP quarterback. And they're no longer led by an MVP quarterback. I mean, so that's at the most important position. They don't have the MVP caliber type guy right now. But I just, you sit there and look at the other teams, with Minnesota, they've been dealing with the backup the whole time, and they have their own issues.
Really, their third-string quarterback.
Right? You look at the Rams, they are playing well, but it's a second-year quarterback. You do have Drew Brees with the Saints. You do have Cam Newton, if he's playing like Cam Newton with the Carolina Panthers, and you have Matt Ryan right now, who obviously was an MVP last year. Those are the teams that are in. And then right on the outside looking in is the Seahawks, and they have Russell Wilson, who has to provide miracles for them and laying low there, and we'll still see about the Packers and Aaron Rodgers. But I still think they have the ability to do that. I really do. I think they have enough around them. I think that team has been built in a very good way to have that depth. But I am worried about the O-line. I do think Wentz covered up. I think we're giving a lot of love to that O-line, and I think they deserve it. But again, Peters being out, in this last game they were on their third left guard. I don't know the situation there much as well. So we'll see where that ends up for more of a stationary quarterback in Nick Foles. So that is a worrisome spot to me.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how they adjust play calling wise on offense, because part of your job as the coach, and Doug Peterson comes from that Andy Reid tree that is always lauded for creativity on offense, but adjusting to what Nick Foles does well. What is that conversation like with him, and how can they best put him in position going forward to maximize his very different skill set from Carson Wentz?
Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. By the way, there's another interesting dynamic to this, because I think if Carson Wentz had continued to play throughout the season, he would have been the MVP. Don't you guys think he would have been?
I think he was there. I think, listen, right there. Yeah.
So now the question becomes, because I don't think you can win the MVP. I mean, I guess technically you can if he's not there for the final 3 games. But does it not throw the MVP race sort of wide open now?
It does. It does. You see Brady having a couple of tough weeks.
Struggling the last 2 weeks.
Russell Wilson there coming off a loss, but he's a guy that you want to. If those that are really doing the definition of the word valuable, then Russell Wilson, you're going to start and kind of stop with him
without question.
The way he's been going. So yeah, I do think it's opened up a little bit with where we are, and given not some of the obviously the good play, but some of the less than stellar play and Wentz going on the shelf. So I definitely think it does. So we'll see. Going back to this team, because Wentz is gone, the other thing that they have in their favor, you would think, is the next 2 games are the Giants and the Raiders. The Giants are dead last in total defense. Dead last. And Oakland is sitting at 22. So you have a couple of back-end defenses that Foles gets to start with and go. Now, as we just saw last night, you can't take anything for granted, as we saw New England lose to Miami. And then they finish up with Dallas, who at that point will probably they'll have Zeke back. So we'll see where that goes there. But I think it's a good couple of games against defenses that have not been playing well this year for Doug Peterson and Foles to get on the same page from the play calling standpoint.
Exactly. That's going to be key. This is a nice buffer period, and we talked about this yesterday when I asked you guys the question, would you rather be the Chargers or the Eagles? The one thing they've got in their advantage is they don't have the weight of having to worry about locking up the division still. Right. They're in. They know they're going to be in. It's just how high can we climb, and in the meantime, can we make sure we're as prepared as possible once we get there?
Yeah, and by the way, back to the MVP vote, Tom Brady did finish second last year despite missing the first 4 games, although I think it feels differently if you miss the first 4 and then come back for the final 12 and light it up, as opposed to starting the first 13 and then missing the last 3. Yeah. It just doesn't feel like it's a different scenario there.
It definitely does. Yeah, it definitely does. But again, I guess we'll look and see. Does he get past? He's leading the league in touchdown passes right now at 33. I'd imagine he's going to get past. You have Brady, who's thrown 27. You have Russell Wilson with 29, so he's probably going to get past in that. So right. I doubt he hangs on to this.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
Trey Wingo and Mike Golic Sr. So we all love the snow game in Buffalo, right?
I did, yes.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
You, Junior, had some issues with it. That's fine. You'll figure that out later. Snow football is, I think, everyone will always watch a snow football game.
Agreed.
Whenever, snow on? Fine. Let me see that.
Yep.
And, every time there was a tackle, it looked like there was an exploding feather bed somewhere. It felt like it was 5 feet of snow on the ground. And it was all good and it was all fun, except for one player. And that would be Colts kicker Adam Vinatieri.
Oh, he had a tough one. He had a clause in his contract that calls for a $500,000 bonus if he makes 90% or more of his field goals this season. So going into Sunday's game, Vinatieri was hitting a solid over 95% of his kicks, 22 of 23.
Which is ridiculous.
Because of the blizzard, and it had a lot to do with it, he was 0 for 2. He is now at 22 of 25, which drops him to 88%. So he went from 95% to 88% with those two misses. And we know it's always tougher to jump back up, in that percentage. You start looking at like batting averages and stuff and trying to do that. So that could be a costly snow game.
Well, here's the bonus for him, okay? They've got 3 games left. 2 of them are at home at Lucas Oil.
Okay.
Okay, so he's got Denver on a short week this week on the Thursday night game. Then they got to go to Baltimore on the 23rd, which I think is a Saturday. So that could be difficult because you don't know what's going to happen in the Charm City this time of year.
Right.
So it could be nasty weather. And then they finish up Houston at Indianapolis. So if you're Vinatieri, you're thinking, let me just make the ones at home, and then I'll roll the dice in that middle game in Baltimore.
You guys still really had a lot of fun watching that snow game, huh? A lot of fun for us to all watch. Let's just forget the people involved. Forget the humanity of guys that were players like you in this that have stuff on the line. No, it's unimportant.
Let me just say, again, I would have been affected in a positive way because I wouldn't have got yelled at the next day in film, and everybody would have come down to my level. That for a kicker, though. Wide receivers, who you're talking about, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, certainly kickers are the ones going to be affected.
Maybe defensive linemen. I know you had one bonus that you were close to leading the team in tackles that one year.
Leading the team in tackles, and Clyde Simmons edged me out by a couple of tackles there. I went that last game, the last couple of games, I went back and I was watching tape. I was like, do I get a tackle there? I'm jumping on piles and stuff.
How close were you to getting the bonus?
2 tackles.
Oh, see?
Yeah.
And now for this, so you guys, I mean, while the playoff success wasn't always there, you guys were in contention a fair amount. This Colts team, are they mathematically eliminated yet? And if not, they're done. They're mathematically eliminated?
If not, let's mathematically eliminate them.
So, I mean,
I'm eliminated.
Down the stretch of the season, maybe you settle for the field goal a little more than you were thinking of to begin with and try and help your boy out?
Or the other opposite of that is, you know what? We got nothing to lose. 4th and 6, we're going for it. And Vinatieri's like, no!
Either that or get him the amount of field goals he needs. Like, I don't know if he makes his next 4, is he back to 90%? And then stop kicking field goals. Yeah. We're done kicking field goals. We're going for it on every
Go to the
down.
Backup kicker, audition other guys on the team, trot defensive linemen out there and toe bash it.
I can hear the call now from Bob Lamy on the Colts broadcast. All right, Colts set up on a 1st and goal from the 1, and they're trotting out Adam Vinatieri for a 1-yard field goal. What's going on here?
That would be awesome. So
doing him a solid.
Hopefully he can make that up. So we'll see if he can or not. Let's one other thing we're doing today because it's my birthday, but we're not going to make it about me on this. But
wait a minute.
Not sure.
Yeah. There you go.
Wow.
Sammy
Love that. So we have a bunch of different sports related things for 55 or the date of my birthday. So today again is December 12th. So I love these. 1949 December 12th, American League votes 7-1 rejecting legalizing the spitball. There was actually a vote taken to legalize the spitball.
I would have voted for it.
And it was rejected.
Wasn't sure that was what we were going to be legalizing.
Well, there you go.
How about 1976? Joe Willie Namath plays his last game with the Jets on December 12th, 1976.
That's something.
Wow.
1965, December 12th, Gale Sayers of the Bears scores 6 touchdowns, which ties an NFL record.
That's more of something than anything else.
That is really
By
impressive.
the way, I think he did that with like halfway through the 3rd or 4th quarter, and it was a sloppy field, and George Halas pulled him because we didn't want to get him hurt, and it was a sloppy field. He could have
put that one out of reach.
He could have made 8.
Yeah,
he probably could have made 8 the way he was playing in that game.
And then as far as money is concerned, on December 12th, 1998, pitcher Kevin Brown becomes baseball's first U.S. $100 million man as he signs a 7-year deal with the Dodgers for $105 million.
That's a pretty good day. That would have been a good birthday present for you to give him.
It would have been a nice birthday present for ESPN. Pony up.
Anything you want to say to your dad, even though you didn't know he was actually 54 today?
This one snuck up on me a little bit, but happy birthday, man! Enjoy enjoy the double nickel. I'll see you for cake at home.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
What a day, what a show, what a time.
I tell you what, a great sports night last night. No doubt about it.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS-ConsumerAccess.org number 3030.
Life happens. With ADT, you can feel safe with an ADT starter kit professionally installed for only $49. Call today and install an ADT starter kit that includes security panel, keypad, key fob, entry and motion sensors, and for a limited time, get a camera included and installed at no additional cost. That's a $449 value installed for just $49.
Requires 36-month monitoring contract, QSB, and EasyPay. Activation and early term fees may apply. Certain marks excluded. License available at ADT.com, Florida EF0011121, Louisiana F1639.
Our insider Buster Olney joins us from the baseball winter meetings via the Shell Pennzoil Performance line, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Buster, clearly the Marlins made the switch, sending Giancarlo Stanton to the Yankees. Obviously, that is still, I would imagine, the talk of what's going on down there in Florida. What are the ramifications being discussed at the winter meetings about that move?
Well, boy, I mean, that can go in a lot of different directions. First, the competitive impact in the American League East. A year ago, I remember when the Red Sox traded for Chris Sale, the question was, what are the Yankees going to do in response? And now, after the Yankees get Giancarlo Stanton, there's some thought that the Red Sox will come up with a big signing to upgrade their lineup, someone like a J.D. Martinez. Will the Tampa Bay Rays, seeing what's going on, decide, you know what? We can't compete with that monster team. We'll trade Evan Longoria. We'll trade Chris Archer. Moving forward with the Marlins, I think there's obviously going to be a lot of questions about how viable they're going to be after they go through yet another fire sale. We knew that this was coming because the current ownership group bought the team and assumed so much debt. But you do wonder, after the scorched earth that they're going through now, how much of a market will be left for them to rebuild on?
And I know you had a chance to sit down with Stanton around his Yankees introduction and that presser, and he kind of, left there with that Instagram of some parting shots at management of the Marlins and what's going on down there. Did he get into that a little more? What was the feel of what his thoughts were from the Marlins?
Yeah, Golic, it wasn't kinda. It's not often because a lot of times players in that situation. When they're asked questions about how they got into that spot in a trade, they'll say, well, I don't want to get into the past. I want to, move forward with the Yankees. I'm excited about that. Giancarlo made it very clear that, he felt like that what went on with the Marlins was a circus, and it wasn't all about, the current ownership. But he and his agent, Joel Wolf, also, I think, made it very clear that they weren't happy with how the whole trade conversation took place under Derek Jeter. They talked about how, at the beginning of the process, he gave a list of teams to the Marlins, and yet the Cardinals and the Giants, two teams who weren't on his list, in the end wound up arranging trades, and then he turned them down. And according to Giancarlo and his agent, when he did that, the word he got from the Marlins, and they weren't specific about which executive told him this, said, well, you know what, then you're going to be a Marlin for life, which was clearly a threat and clearly a bluff, and he called it.
Well, wow. The idea that, hey, you're going to have to stick with us as a threat is not, I think, an endearing selling term for anybody that might want to come to this franchise.
No. And look, as I say, he didn't hold back at all in really making sure that we all knew that he was disgusted with what happened and how this played out. But no matter who, given the way that the new Marlins ownership bought the team with all the debt, no matter who went into that seat, whether it was Derek or somebody else, boy, they were going to have to do some unpopular things, and that's certainly how it's played out so far.
Buster Olney with us from the baseball winter meetings. You've mentioned Derek Jeter a couple of times today. He is not at the winter meetings, which we should point out are in Orlando, Florida. And he was spotted at the Dolphins-Patriots game last night. What do you make of him not even being there in person to deal with the repercussions of this?
It's surprising. It's shocking. Look, if you work in a front office in baseball operations, and when Derek and the new ownership were brought in, it was explained that Derek was going to oversee the baseball operations and the business side. He's the CEO of the team. He's been in the middle of all these Giancarlo Stanton conversations. People who are in upper management in baseball, this is like opening day for them, right? At the winter meetings, all of them, Theo Epstein, Brian Cashman, Dave Dombrowski, Chris Antonetti, the Indians. It would be unthinkable that they wouldn't come to the winter meetings, not only because, this is an opportunity to sell the sport to idiots like me, but also because they have conversations with other teams. They learn about their own players from conversations with other teams. They learn about their own employees. And here you have Derek, who's taken over this front office. He probably doesn't know a lot of his employees very well. What better opportunity than to be around them as all these conversations are going on with other teams and with agents? It's a great place to learn, and he should be here, and he especially should have been here in person yesterday at a time when the Marlins are making these franchise-changing decisions. As the face of the franchise, as the leader of the organization, he should have been here in person to explain to reporters. Now, he did hold a conference call yesterday, but these are the winter meetings. And as I said on SportsCenter yesterday, for a general manager not to show up to these, or someone who's in his position, is like a player not showing up for a game.
It is. It does seem somewhat odd right out of the gate for him. We're talking to Buster Olney on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Again, our baseball insiders also authored 2 books, and the greatest thing about Buster is he grew up on a dairy farm in Randolph Center, Vermont, which we always love to chit-chat about every now and then. How about the effect now, because everybody thinks that a Manny Machado or a Bryce Harper was going to end up on the Yankees someday. Is that going to be off the table now with this? And so who does that open up for possibility of other teams that could jump into the fray for those guys?
Yeah, and I do think actually that this could have a dramatic impact on next year's free agent class, which is expected to be perhaps the greatest of all time, with Manny and with Bryce Harper as headliners. The thought all along was that the Yankees have been clearing payroll in recent years so they could set themselves up for a run at one of those 2 guys. Well, now, as they went through this Giancarlo Stanton conversation, because the Marlins are assuming about $30 million in salary, and because they took Starlin Castro in the deal, in the end, the Yankees' deal with Stanton is for $243 million over 10 years. That is so much less than what people expect that Harper could get, maybe $350 million to $500 million, or Machado perhaps in the same range. So this might be the Yankees' big-ticket spend on this. And, maybe that clears the decks for a team like the Philadelphia Phillies, or maybe it pushes Bryce Harper back to the Nationals and puts them more in play. They've made it clear they'd like to retain him.
Well, yeah, look, it's interesting. We had Michael Kay on talking about all that and the machinations that may or may not take place with the Yankees. But what is the next thing? I mean, usually these things happen at the winter meetings. This Giancarlo Stanton thing sort of happened before everybody got down there over the weekend. What's the next big move that might be coming this week, Buster?
Well, the Yankees, what's next for them is they're going to focus on pitching. And the Pittsburgh Pirates right now are absolutely in listening mode on Andrew McCutchen, who's a free agent after next season, and Garrett Cole is a free agent after 2 seasons. It wouldn't at all surprise me if the Yankees jump in on Garrett Cole, who's the best available starting pitcher. Those 2 organizations match up real well with a potential trade, and the 2 general managers have done a lot of business in the past. The Cardinals were spurned, of course, by Stanton, and they've now moved forward, spun off the other conversations. They're talking with the Marlins about Marcell Ozuna. They're terrific outfielders. They're talking to the Rays about Evan Longoria, and pursuing a lot of other things.
So I'm wondering, from the baseball side of it, Buster, you and all you guys in baseball, are you more excited to see Stanton in the Yankees uniform at the plate, or Shohei Ohtani either pitching and or DHing for the Angels, and what he is trying to do out there?
Man, that's a great question. I have a longtime friend who said to me the other day, he's a Red Sox fan. He said, "Man, I'm so bummed that the Yankees got Giancarlo Stanton, but I'm so excited as a baseball fan to see Stanton and Judge on the same field in the same lineup. Like, that'll be a lot of fun to watch. Batting practice will be incredible with those two guys in the same round. But I got to tell you, I'm really interested in Ohtani because he's going to be trying to do something nobody really has ever done for any length of time, and that is to try to be work as a starting pitcher, and he'll probably do that once a week. You know, the expectation in the industry is he'll make about 25, 26 starts, and he'll also work to get a lot of at-bats. And there's a lot of curiosity about how the Angels are going to make this work, but there's no doubt. Billy Epler, the general manager, when they were wooing Ohtani, they committed to that they're going to try to make it work, to use him in the lineup, 2-3 days a week when he's not pitching.
I do have one question from the money side of it. Listen, we all try and maximize our dollar. It's not just pro athletes that do that. And this kid is, 23 years old, I believe?
Yep.
And the baseball paying rules are unbelievable, so you can help me with this. But from what I understand, he basically got a pittance of what he could have got had he come out 2 years later. Had he stayed and played where he did for a couple of more years, then he could have come to Major League Baseball and got a monster deal right out of the gate. Now he's getting a smaller amount, and God forbid he doesn't play as well. Can he hurt himself monetarily?
Absolutely he could. And believe me, as this was playing out, you talk to agents who were had attempted to try to represent him, and you ask them, okay, what's your advice to him? And every single one was like, of course you would tell him, stay in Japan for 2 more years, because general managers are telling me if he was a pure free agent right now and he was up for auction, his talents are so extraordinary. He throws over 101 miles per hour, has power as a hitter, has been clocked to first base running as fast as Mike Trout. He would have gotten more than $200 million, okay? But instead, he chose to come here now, and he gets the signing bonus from the Angels, about $2.5 million. He plays for minimum salary, essentially, for the next 2 years. And then in 2019, he could try to get the big deal. And you're right, if he gets hurt, if something happens, it's possible that he's going to get far less than what he could have gotten. It actually endeared him more to teams as they were doing their evaluation process, because their thought was, wow, this kid really wants to play Major League Baseball because he's obviously foregoing a lot of money to make it happen.
Buster Olney with us from the baseball winter meetings, joining us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line as we are Golic and Wingo, presented by Progressive Insurance. Okay, Buster, obviously Giancarlo Stanton has been the thing. What are we hearing about Matt Harvey? Where might he be going, and what's this situation looking like with Matt Harvey and the Mets?
Yeah, Trey, there were a ton of rumors here yesterday. They're talking to various teams about trading him. Look, when I talk to Mets people, they're like, we know that there's almost no chance we're going to trade him, because they understand after his struggles of last year and the year before that, his value could not be lower. He's a free agent after 2018. He's coming off a couple of terrible seasons, but given what we saw from him in the past, of course teams are lined up saying to the Mets, hey, you wanna dump Matt Harvey for nothing? We'll take him, because everyone is wondering if he can rebuild himself, if he'll go into next year especially motivated with free agency on the horizon. And so the Mets internally are, their thought is, if our choice is to give him away for little more than nothing, or just keep him and see if he rekindles with us, we'll take the latter option.
All right, Buster, we appreciate your time this morning. And one serious question for you. I know you're in Orlando, and if you get a little bit of free time and you can make it over to Mickey's house, what is the one ride, if you had a chance to go on it only one time, that I can run over, I can get on this ride before I have to go try and find Derek Jeter if he ever shows up? What is the ride you would go on?
Space Mountain.
Space Mountain. Wow, old school, huh?
Yeah, all right. The Space Mountain is can be a little rickety at times.
It can, but it's in the dark, and it makes you not know.
It kind of freaks me out.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly
good
where
call,
I'm going.
Buster. I like that a lot. All right.
Well, maybe I'll try to do that. If a bunch of deals go down today, I'll try to go over there and report back to you guys.
There you go.
And then do Mount Everest at the Animal Kingdom. Always a good one, too. Thanks, Buster.
Appreciate it, man.
See you guys.
Thanks a lot.
Buster Olney with us from the baseball winter meetings.
I'm a big fan of the rock and roller coaster.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where that takes off like you're 0 to whatever.
Yeah, the first one. Or, honestly, the Toy Story ride where you shoot. You try and get the most points.
Yeah,
that's
I do
always
like that
fun.
a lot. Yeah,
that's always
big
fun.
Fan. I do like Everest that you mentioned.
Yeah, Everest is a good one.
Yeah,
Everest is a good one. So we're covering all the really important.
Yeah, well, I mean, of course, really an interesting. I mean, Derek Jeter went through a Hall of Fame career, both on and off the field, if you know what I'm talking about, and never made really a bad tabloid headline for it. And it seems like in his first major moves as a minority ownership, but he's the face of that organization, that he's just doing things that are making people scratch their head a little bit. I mean, making it look like Stanton, well, if you don't take a deal, you're here for life, kind of a threat to not going to these meetings, and I don't know if but Buster's the one saying he should be here. I mean, that just seems like an interesting way to start it all out.
Look, if you're the public face of the franchise and you've just dealt the face of the franchise, it does make sense that in the biggest off-season business setting for the entire sport, you should probably be there in person.
Yeah.
That's just the way I interpret it, and that's what Buster said.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I'll go with him on those lines, so we'll see what happens there.
Derek Jeter can do Derek Jeter things,
and
I guess.
Usually it works out.
Yeah.
Speaking of working out, something happened that is going to happen in 2018 that is long overdue in a sport that I love and a sport that you tolerate. It was announced Monday that beginning in 2018, all of golf's major professional tours will no longer allow viewers to call in, email, or text rules infractions that they see on the tour. Now, that's basically something that it started to be amended already when they were going to say if it hadn't happened after the first round, we're not going to retroactively go back and look at it. That's what happened to Lexi Thompson on the LPGA Tour this past year when someone said she illegally marked her ball, and it cost her 4 strokes and eventually cost her a major.
Right.
Okay? So now they're saying, because you could do this before, if you thought that somebody had an improper drop. I think it happened to Tiger Woods at the 2014 Masters. A birdie on the 15th hole went to an 8 because of an illegal drop. And by the way, he finished out of a playoff by 4 strokes that year. I can't remember what year it was. I think it was 14. It might have been 12 or 13. I'm not sure. But 2013, thank you. The idea that it's so foreign to any other sport. It's, to me, this is like, let's say the Eagles were playing Dallas in a playoff game, and somebody looks back at the tape and sees you with an illegal hands to the face.
Right. And
the just so you don't understand how this worked in golf, that they would have looked at that and said, yeah, that should have been a penalty. So in the next game, on your first series, we're gonna penalize you 15 yards for the illegal hands to the face.
Listen,
that's how crazy this became.
Me having fun, I golf's fine. I like going out and playing every now and then as long as I can have a beer with it. Right. I don't love it. I like it. But you even have to admit, how could the powers that be ever,
drives me nuts,
ever put this could really be the dumbest rule in all of sports.
Yeah.
In all of sports. Take every single sport from football all the way down to whatever you want to go. To curling, which I can't wait to watch coming up in the Olympics. But
yes.
In every sport, they all have rules. Some are laughable. This is the most laughable rule I think there is in any sport, where you actually will let a viewer do any kind of communication to you while the tournament's going on and penalize that person in it. It was the dumbest rule of all time, and I can't believe there were any people like you who love golf that would have ever been behind a rule like this.
It drove me crazy.
And it's been in place for a long time, has it not?
Absolutely. And look, every group has especially at a major, has a rules official with them. Okay.
Yes.
And here's where I don't like it from a fairness perspective. Not everybody's on TV.
On TV, it's exactly
right.
right.
So some guy or some woman on the LPGA could have done something that might be questionable, and you'd never see it. But if you have a star like Tiger Woods or Lexi Thompson on the LPGA Tour, where most of their rounds are shown on TV, then basically it becomes a disadvantage for them because of their popularity. Look, and golfers are different. They call a lot of rules violations on themselves,
right.
Which is awesome, and I understand that. But at the idea that someone not involved and just sort of watching can have an effect on the outcome, it's never made sense to me, and I'm really happy that they finally addressed it.
What blows my mind is there had to be a meeting about this.
Yeah.
There had to be a meeting, and there had to be an agreement before they walked out of this room that people thought it was a good idea.
Yeah.
To which every person should have walked out of that room and immediately been drug tested for the idiocy of that rule and how dumb it was, which means at some point this morning, we're going to have fun with that rule.
Oh, absolutely. I can promise you that.
Yes, we are. But I'm so happy they got rid of it because it was ridiculous.
Look, let the sport and the players govern themselves.
Oh. Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
It was all sort of one big giant Jell-O mold.
It's very interesting where that went.
look, we joked about this yesterday, thinking about the Dolphins actually upsetting the Patriots,
right?
And we all said, that's not going to happen. It happened.
Yeah,
maybe we should have taken a little more seriously the idea of geography. That's the third time in the last 4 trips that somehow Miami has managed to trip up New England.
Well, we gave a lot of stats yesterday about why there'd be a good chance for Miami to beat New England, and we poo-pooed them.
Yeah.
We flat out did. We said that.
We were bad poo-pooers.
Not going to happen. And listen, they got to Brady last night. The offensive line has some changes on it. He got sacked twice, hit 6 more times. But the amazing thing to me is for as an efficient team as New England has been over time, to be 0 for 11 on third down is amazing to me. And that's kudos, obviously, to the Miami Dolphins defense. That's your whole object. Listen, sat in many a defensive room as far as goals, and one of the biggest ones ever is to get off the field on third down.
Right.
It's one of the most, because New England had been that damning team that in 3rd and 4 will get you 5.
Yeah.
You know, with a guy like Julian Edelman or Amendola, the type of slot receivers, or even Gronk, you know, that would get you just enough to move the chains. That would be so frustrating to say, we were almost off the field. I got it by a yard, moved the chains, another set of downs. But the Dolphins did a great job. The Dolphins played well, gang, and looking at their side of it, they're still in this thing. They still have 2 more games with Buffalo. With Buffalo right now, as a team sitting in the chase at 7-6, the Dolphins are 6-7. The Dolphins play the Bills 2 times, and they play Kansas City. So Kansas City, right? So they can get a win there. They have a win over the Titans, who are in it right now. They have a win over the Chargers, who are in the hunt. They have a loss to the Ravens, who are in the hunt as well. But the Dolphins, you know, this is a team that would win a few, lose a few. Now they're on a win a couple. They put themselves in a position to say, okay, you know, let's take care of our business like we just did the last couple of games, and let's see where this thing lands us.
Yeah, technically they're right now in the 10 spot, but as you said, they've got a couple of games against the Bills, which is a massive situation because Bills are 6th. Right. So, you know, you win those 2, and suddenly it changes everything dramatically.
Right. Yep.
But, you know, the other side of this is, how much do you attribute their lack of success, especially on third down, to no Gronk without the suspension on Monday night? And are there concerns now? Because over the last 2 games, Tom Brady has 3 interceptions and only 1 touchdown pass.
Here's the thing. You always say when you're missing your guys, it can eventually catch up with you. But what's the one team that's always put that aside?
The Patriots.
The Patriots. They won a Super Bowl without Gronk.
Correct.
They've won without Edelman. They always,
and they got Hogan back last night.
Yes, they're able to find a way. So if they were to lose to a team, like say this happened next week with the injuries of guys being out, and it's to Pittsburgh, who we think is the team that could battle them to represent the AFC, maybe more understandable. But this was a sub-500 team that beat them. Now, again, statistics shows they have success in Miami against New England, but still, New England usually is able to find their way out of these messes, and they weren't last night. So we can sit there and talk about them not performing, but I'm one of those. I tip my cap to the opponent.
Yeah.
You know, they're the ones that are getting the job done on the field. Cutler, you know, this is what you...
Cutler played great last night.
And I mean, that's the whole thing about Cutler is inconsistent, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it look like the Cutler that we all want to kind of yell at, you know, that he has that look on his face and does he care and blah, 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 and he gets jumped on sometimes unfairly. Or is it a guy that goes out and is incredibly efficient like he was last night?
Well, look, the other thing to keep in mind here going forward, again with Brady, who's just been spectacular all season long, he's been on the injury list the last couple of weeks with that sore Achilles.
Achilles, right.
You know, any kind of Achilles thing, got to just put bells in your head.
Oh, yeah, because a lot of times you see an Achilles go, and obviously nobody's touching you. You see a guy making a move, making a cut, and all of a sudden they're down grabbing the back of their ankle. Now, it's not like Brady moves a ton, but still, if it's sore and there's something with it, you don't know what could make it go if it were to go.
And you look at his yards in the passing game since the game in Mexico City against the Raiders when he threw for 340, was 30 of 37, was just off the charts. The last time they played Miami, he threw for 227 yards. Now, granted, they ran for a season-high 196 yards in that game. I get that. Okay? So 227. Then against Buffalo, he threw for 258. And then last night, 233. So you just wonder, okay, we've all said all along, you know, the Father Time, and maybe this is the one guy that he can't beat. But he is 40 years old. He did miss the first 4 games last year, which I think definitely helped him down the stretch of the season. Is he wearing down a little bit? Because he's taken a ton of hits. He's already been sacked way more this year than he was a year ago. So you just wonder, is there a little bit of attrition showing up right now? And this is a difficult stretch for them, by the way. That game was in Mexico City. They were home from Miami, at Buffalo, at Miami, and now they're going to be at Pittsburgh.
It just seems so weird that every time there's an off game, and I know it's been a couple, but we start to question it for a guy who's completing 67% of his passes, just under 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. I mean, it's very, very difficult to sit there and say, is he losing it? There's no way I'm saying that. I'm still giving him the benefit of the doubt. He has been sacked 29 times. That part does worry me because there has, as I mentioned, some shifting on that offensive line. So he is taking more hits, and that 2 years ago was one of the big bugaboos for them as he took a lot of hits. Now you're going up against a team that's second in the league in sacks in Pittsburgh. If they don't sack him a number of times, they're going to hit him and make him uncomfortable, and that's one of the best ways to beat the New England Patriots.
Yeah, you just move him off his spot. There were a couple times where they didn't get him, but they blitzed, and he had to dirt a couple of throws.
Right.
And that was the biggest concern. Look, we can say all this stuff, but if they go into Pittsburgh next week and beat them, they're still in the driver's seat for home field advantage in the AFC.
Right.
So as bad as this game was Monday night for them, it doesn't matter.
Make it all go away.
As Bill Belichick likes to say, we're on to Pittsburgh. Because all they have to focus on is beating Pittsburgh, and that will be difficult now because the way Pittsburgh's playing offensively,
Yeah.
But, if they beat Pittsburgh, they've handled their business, and they're on the inside track to make sure the playoffs go through Foxborough.
And I think Mike, my son, said it correctly a while ago, is Belichick probably is not cherishing a loss, but how he can use this
teachable
in his coaching abilities and teachable moments to say, man, guys, you can't slough off a bit or you're going to get got.
Okay, so that's what's going on with the New England Patriots. Again, a huge game coming up Week 15 in Pittsburgh. And then there are the growing ramifications of what happened Sunday with the Texans quarterback, Tom Savage. He took that vicious hit, and as he hit his head in the end zone, his arms went into what's called that fencing pose, which is when someone who was in a concussion, you see that in a boxing match, the guy's out. They brought him back into the game after a short concussion protocol, and then they saw the symptoms getting worse. And then they took him out for the rest of the game. Now, Bill O'Brien, the Texans head coach, took a lot of heat here. But at the end of the day, the coaching staff has to rely on the medical team, the unaffiliated neurological consultant, and the spotter to deal with all of that stuff. He's just going on what they tell him. However, he finally saw the video of what we all saw Sunday, and this is what he had to say after seeing it.
Figured that he got hit, really didn't know that he got hit. There's 12 bodies around him. Very, very difficult from the 50-yard line where I'm standing to see if he even got hit. With benefit of the video, which I do not have benefit of any video, there's no video on the sideline. All there are tablets. There's no video. There's nothing like that. With benefit of seeing the video, obviously from my standpoint, the care for the player, I would have never let that player back in the game, and I don't believe that Jeff Kaplan would have allowed that player back in the game. I don't have benefit of the video. I did not see anything.
Okay.
And understand, he's not allowed to.
Correct.
Coaches are not allowed to see replay and video on the sideline. The spotter in the booth and the doctors on the field have access to the video. Now, that's going to be the big question. If they didn't see that video or they saw that video and didn't react in a different way, quite honestly, there needs to be hell paid.
Yes.
There's no doubt about it, because if you're able to look at that and not have some more of a response like, forget the tent, we're going right into the locker room and we're going to go starting with that protocol, man, that then if you're truly in on this
for the
player safety, you have got to hammer the team, just like what's coming down with Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. For how he got hit, the ref took Russell Wilson off the field. He was supposed to get checked out. You know how those tents, they kind of...
The blue tent,
they kind of put it up and the players in it? It wasn't even all the way up. He was the only one in it, Russell Wilson, and he ran right out. So, and again, I'm not putting that on the player. You have people in place. You're putting them in place to stop this, and they're failing to do so. You've got to come down hard on them.
Well, look, the NFLPA and the NFL have launched a joint investigation into what happened in the situation in Houston. And by the way, they also said there should be something coming within a day or two with Seattle
and
about how that went down in that Thursday night game in Arizona. But I can tell you, in speaking with people with the NFLPA, they want to know exactly why it didn't go down the way it should have gone down, because you're right, that The doctors and the unaffiliated neurological consultant, the UNC as they call it, or the independent neurological consultant, INC, have access to that video. And they should have seen that video. And again, to the points of the procedures for the concussion protocol, you take them in the blue tent, you ask them standard questions. If they pass those questions, they can be determined whether or not they go in the game, but you keep monitoring them. And if something gets worse, then they go into the locker room for what's a deeper dive called a SCAT-5 test. And according to the people I was talking with the NFLPA, they want to know why they didn't see that video, because it has worked before. Just go back to what started week 14. Was the Thursday night game between the Saints and the Falcons. On the first drive, Alvin Kamara of the Saints was running in. He got hit helmet to helmet. They spotted it immediately. They pulled him off the field. They went through the stuff. Then he went into the locker room, and he did not return to that game as he was in the concussion protocol. They want to know how it broke down, because that video that showed Tom Savage clearly out on the field with his arms like that should have been enough for them to avoid the blue tent completely and go in for the deeper dive into the locker room.
As complex as it is, which is way above my head, it seems pretty easy.
Yeah.
You have two people, one in the booth and one on the field, the doctor on the field, that while he's in that blue tent, they can look at that review. So if you, A, did you look at it? If you didn't look at it, that's a problem. Why didn't you look at it? There should be hell to pay. B, if you looked at it and let him go back on the field,
there should still be hell
to pay. So that's on those guys. I am Coach O'Brien. He is not allowed to look at replays on the sideline. No coaches are, so he can't see it. And plus, he's coaching. That's what you rely on the medical profession for. So I don't put this on Bill O'Brien at all, or any head coach in this situation.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
Let's not expect too much. There's only one person out there that's expecting way too much out of this guy too early. We know who that is. It's his father.
Computer, execute 12.4p operation.
Optimizing algorithm. Running encryption packet alpha. Night. Oh, I don't feel so good.
What is it, computer?
Is it hot in here? It feels hot in here. I feel a little clammy. I should lie down or something.
A computer with a virus? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Those oysters Rockefeller were a mistake.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
We roll on Golic and Wingo, and again, it is Mike Golic's birthday. He is 55! So we're looking at great 55s maybe in history.
How about I share a birthday with Frank Sinatra?
Congratulations.
And Bob Barker.
There you go. Come on down.
Jennifer Connelly.
Oh, nice.
How about that? We went through some of the other famous 55-year-olds. How about 55 as far as in games?
That's where I was going.
Yeah, okay.
Michael Jordan's double nickel game in 95. He scored 55 points, wearing number 45.
Not bad at all. Yeah. I'm amazed at this. On November 24th, 1960, Philadelphia Warrior Wilt Chamberlain snagged 55 rebounds in a game against the Celtics, setting an NBA record for the most rebounds in a single game, and one that will never be broken. The most rebounds in a single game since the 85 season, Charles Oakley went for 35, so he's still
Nicely
20 short.
By the way, 55, Peyton Manning, 55 touchdown passes in 2013. Another impressive 55. 55 is the career high for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Dwayne Wade, Tony Parker, and Tiny Archibald. So lots of good 55s there as we continue to celebrate the big man's 55th birthday. We're also celebrating.
Can I say real quick?
Yes.
I'm sorry. My birthday. Friends of ours that we travel with all the time. We're going to South Africa with to the Perianos. Claire Periano.
Yeah.
It's her birthday today.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
So a double celebration then
happy birthday,
in March.
Claire Barrett.
When you
share a birthday.
When you head out to South Africa. Okay, so we're also celebrating a rule change.
Yes, we are.
That you can no longer call in starting in 2018 as a viewer or email or text and say, hey, there was a rule violation, you need to penalize this player. It's been a silly rule.
Horrible rule.
Ridiculous. It should have been gone years ago. It's finally gone. So we're celebrating the idea that this is no longer happening by maybe taking a look back at some of the things that may have happened with people calling in.
What's up? This is Rick from Tempe. Currently on the course right now, 8 handicap. I'm working on getting a 6 by spring. I heard about the decision to terminate the voicemails to report rules violations, PGA Tour. Not a fan. They call me the Hawk, PJ Hawk. I call in every Sunday. I've been responsible for 6 violations this year. No big deal. You guys shanked this one. You guys really shanked this one. Right in the fescue. Although I wouldn't know about the Fescue. I've never been there. No big deal. Not sure where this number's going, but I'm still going to call in every Sunday. Hope you guys keep the number around.
So that was the Hawk.
This is what I want to know. I would love to actually hear from a person that actually called in. And what is going on with you that you feel the need to call in and report what you feel is a violation?
Yeah.
That blows my. They would be sitting there, and you may see something that you would have to get to the phone, find the number. I don't even know what number to call, and call in and lodge a complaint. Blows my mind.
It doesn't make any sense to me. So then we got time for one more of these, right? We extrapolated this into other sports. Had this had happened, let's say, for example, in a snowy game in Western New York.
Hello, yeah, this message is for the Buffalo Bills. This is Jerry Pinkoski, former super of the Buffalo Public Works Department. I've been around a few plows in my life, and I'm calling with an error from the snow game on Sunday. But I got to say, in all my years of plowing and living just south of the Falls, I cannot accept our field looking that way, and I'm just calling to lodge the notice of error on your part as the Bills organization is unacceptable. My beef on WEC is ready. I got to go. Jerry Pinkoski, former super, Buffalo Public Works Plows. Thank you.
Former super.
Notice of error.
Look, it was one of the most idiosyncratic things in a sport that is very idiosyncratic in golf. I'm glad it's out there. It just doesn't make any sense, and I'm glad that they moved on. We got a few more of those. We'll play
Yeah. I am willing to say it was the dumbest rule in all of sports since the beginning of time.
Yeah, that might be. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Unless someone can tell me of a dumber one, that one absolutely wins to me.
This has been the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast. Make sure to subscribe on the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, and to listen every weekday morning at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and the ESPN app.